1, 2, check 1, 2. That, if you refresh it, that should do it.
And we're just gonna like make it. Just gotta load it. Keep going. We're gonna make a full semicircle around the tables. Yeah. Not quite surround sound, but I think we can fit up here.
Yeah. So, no.
All right. Right on.
The,
Not in the way of the camera, maybe.
It's fine.
All right. Isaiah, fill in your gap there. Oh, and sorry, you two are gonna have to come right down here. Thanks so much. No, you can fade back in. So, Allah, thyself. Ooh.
so after we do that, I don't think you would.
All right, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Jessica, roll call.
Blint,
Here.
Williamson,
Here.
Schrader, Overberg,
Here.
Hampton,
Here.
Maher,
Here.
Hurd.
Here.
Any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Motion to approve agenda?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Blint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to get started. Our student spotlight tonight, if you couldn't tell, is our show choir. Our high school show choir. They're going to give us a little taste of what they do.
Yeah, so this is the high school show choir. We are without our band tonight, our awesome band, but we figured that might be a little too much for this room, so we're going to use a track. But they actually just finished up their competitive season on Saturday, and it has been a great season. Talk about a season of resiliency. That's been these guys. In their daytime competitions, they got second, first. And for every finals they've made, they have upped their placement because they just weren't, they wanted more. And they accomplished that. They've earned caption awards in best costumes, best band, best choreography, and best closer. And so they have had a lot of fun making music together, and that has shown on stage. And so we're going to showcase our ballad for you tonight. It's called Light from the musical Next to Normal. It's going to feature two soloists, one of which this is going to be her first time. She's our alternate for the season, so Naomi English and Isaiah Denny. Come on down.
You want a microphone for these guys?
Oh, they won't need it.
All alone. try to start out our board meetings with the student spotlight to re-ground us on why we're here and the choices that we're making, and to remember our mission of to empower students to achieve without limits. So, great example of a place where we can highlight all of our wonderful students, and we have lots of them doing great things. So, yes, we have tough decisions, but at the end of the day, we have a lot to be proud of as well. Next up on our agenda is citizen comments. We have a couple people that have got on the agenda. So, Mr. Breaker, you're first.
Hey, would you flip that microphone on right there? On the bottom. Yeah, thank you.
Yep, can you hear me? Good afternoon. My name is Mason Breaker, and I'm here to address the ongoing safety and behavior issues at elementary schools. In just the past few weeks, my child has both witnessed and experienced physical harm. While this has been happening for years, I'm focusing on the most recent incidents. A couple weeks ago, I picked up my son from school, and he was extremely upset. He told me he had witnessed his friend being attacked, thrown into a metal cabinet, head slammed, and hurt. He didn't know how badly his friend was injured, but he was terrified. When I contacted the principal, he stated my son had been physically hit earlier that day, and I emailed the teacher asking basic questions about safety procedures, incident frequency, and whether additional support was being put in place. Instead of answers, I received a generic confidentiality response, and even though none of my questions required private information about another child, I was asking about my son's safety, and those questions were never addressed. The following week, while volunteering for Books for Buddies, the principal pulled me aside to tell me my son had been bitten at recess. Again, I emailed the teacher, and again, none of my concerns were addressed. Again, I was told confidentiality, even though confidentiality does not prevent the school from explaining what safety measures are being taken to protect my child. This is now a pattern, and it is dangerous, and it affects not only my son, but multiple other children who have been physically harmed, 3 just in the recent weeks, by the same student. I met with the principal and Dr. Butler, and I greatly appreciated him taking the time to listen, but the response was not swift enough because my child was harmed again shortly afterward. This is a failure of the school system's responsibility to keep students safe and provide an environment where learning can happen without fear. There are multiple laws that protect children from exactly these situations, including the Iowa Code Section 280.28, the district's anti-bullying harassment policy, the district's discipline policy, and the special education service delivery plan. None of these are being followed, and the school is in direct violation of state laws and its own policies. Multiple families have shared similar experiences with the same outcomes: no communication, no documentation, no follow-up, and no meaningful intervention, no change in supervision or support. This is not a single student issue. This is a systemic issue, and when a system repeatedly ignores physical and verbal harm, it violates student rights and parents' rights. I'm asking the board to place on an upcoming agenda a full investigation into all reported incidents over the last 3 years, a complete report of your findings, immediate implementation of safety controls, including consistent reporting, documentation, and parent notification, clear communication pathways for students and administrators and families when safety issues arise. All this is already required under state law and Mount Pleasant Community School District policy. The common topic at the board meetings is funding. I want to be very clear. When serious safety issues go unaddressed, what parent wouldn't consider using an ESA voucher program? I have 4 children in this district. If those concerns are not taken seriously, I will move them to a school where safety, learning, and student-first values are practiced. So I do want to thank you for your time. I strongly encourage all the board members, each of you, to spend time in the elementary schools to see firsthand what our students are experiencing every day. I also want to thank the superintendent for taking the time to listen to my concerns and for treating them with seriousness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breaker. Mrs. Myros, you're next.
I'd like to listen to the meeting and then get updated on what's going on. And then that's it.
The only time for citizen comments is first.
Okay, I'll pass it.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the review of 25-26 district goals.
Okay, just board members as a reminder, and to try and build some automaticity in our work, our district goals for 25-26, and we are going to. One of the things that the administrative team is going to do tonight is going to share with you some of the action planning and steps that we are taking on one of our goals. So we have a goal graduation rate. By the end of 25-26, we'll raise our graduation rate to 95%. Goal number 2, attendance. By the end of 25-26 school year, 90% or more of our students will be in attendance 90% or more of the school year of the grading period. It's got our baselines there as well. Goal number 3, academics. By the end of the 25-26 school year, 80% of all Mount Pleasant students will be proficient in math and English language arts. Goal number 4, skills for learning or social emotional behavior health. By the end of 25-26, the percentage of students identified as at risk in the SABRE screener will decrease by 10% compared to the baseline data collected in the fall of 2025. Excuse me. And then goal number 5, professional practice. That's for our collaborative teams. By the end of the 25-26 school year, 95% of collaborative teams will rate themselves as tight for collective commitment number 1, collaboration, educators working collaboratively rather than in isolation and taking collective responsibility for student learning. So those are the goals that we set forth early in the school year. We recently had a district leadership team meeting. We did an update of those action plans, and that's what I'm going to have the principals share specific tonight to goal number 2, which is attendance.
Next up is minutes, claims, and financial. Jessica?
I would mention as well that all of these documents are posted on the website that we're going through tonight. I did post them together as meeting documents, so if people are on the live stream and you want to follow the agenda and the documents, everything is posted as they're not single documents. You can scan them as one whole unit, so you can follow along with that.
Okay, so the financial report is as of February 29th, and it is year over year. So what you see in this column right here to the left is our fund balances as of February of 2025, and right over here you will see our fund balances as they are currently 2026, and then the difference over here. So we'll start out with the general fund. The general fund balance currently is 1.5 lower than this time last year. This change is primarily due to increased costs in several areas, including teacher salaries, along with their benefits, instructional supplies, software, and then necessities such as fuel and utilities. So then we'll go down to the student activity fund. The student activity fund currently is $44,705, higher than it was last year at this time. Now to note, activity fund balances, they can fluctuate throughout the year depending on participation and events. We still have track, golf, baseball, and softball seasons remaining, which will continue to affect this fund. Going down one more, we have the management fund. The balance right now is $299,318, higher than it was last year at this time. Bearing any unforeseen weather event or staff injury, the current balance should be close to where the fund will end at the end of the year, with the exception of the early retirement payouts. Those are paid out of the management fund. An early retirement incentive is any of your unused sick time that you have accrued. You are paid out at a certain amount per unused day, and that is funded through the management fund. Our PEPAL fund right now is $212, $161 higher than last year at this time. We recently had some revenue deposited, $116,000 from the sale of what we call the metal building, but it's where our maintenance and central receiving used to be, 400 East Madison Street. We also recently received $333,420 as a reimbursement from the safety school grants that all of the schools in Iowa received. We used that to purchase cameras and doors to better equip our buildings. Capital projects currently, $629,324 below where we were last year at this time. We've recently purchased this school year 2 school buses, a wheelchair lift. We've done various site and building projects, and we've also paid for the new RTM site at 1515 Monroe Street. That was all funded with capital projects. We also had some expenditures out of this for the new greenhouse from FFA. However, we did receive a generous donation from Continental that funded that. That money was parked in the capital projects, and as we spend that money on the greenhouse, it will be expensed out of there. Debt service is up $7,450. This is simply what we use to pay for our Apple technology lease, the iPads, and the laptops. Nutrition balance is currently $114,000 lower than it was last year. This decrease is primarily due to the purchase of several needed pieces of kitchen equipment and increases in staff salary and benefits. And to remind you, the food service department, the nutrition fund, is self-operating. So any revenue and expenses that come in and out of there, they have to be able to fully fund themselves and maintain a positive balance. So as we go into the budget discussions later in the meeting, you can see as an overall total, we're 1.6 million short of where we were last year. And so this is why we're here. Does anybody have any questions?
Any other comments on minutes, claims, or financials?
We did go over all of the individual claims at the Finance Committee meeting on Friday.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Flint,
Yes?
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
We'll move on to reports, and first up is instructional reports and update on district goal number 2 attendance.
All right. Get the principals. I've got all the, you can come up here, or the documents are in the board packets, and I can scroll through them for you.
Take the microphone.
Do you want us up front?
Yeah, why don't you come up here? Yeah, please. Thank you.
All right, so this is our document that we use as a district leadership team to track the action steps that we are all taking at each building. And like Mr. Henriksen said, this one is aligned to goal number 2, which is attendance. So one of our action steps is we will develop an attendance team that meets monthly. So at Lincoln Elementary and Van Allen Elementary, Melanie Calora, who's not here tonight, and I both developed a team. I believe Van Allen meets a little bit more often. At Lincoln, we meet monthly. Let's see. Something specific to Lincoln, we send home positive teacher or staff mail to every student once per semester. And at our February check-in, we were able to share that 100% of our students at Lincoln Elementary did receive a positive note. And one way we're hoping that by doing that, we keep our chronic absenteeism percentage at or below 10%, and our semester average was 9.5%. Okay, so one other thing that we're doing at Lincoln and Van Allen, and actually that should also reflect Salem as well, that whenever a student receives a proactive attendance letter, it's up to the school. In addition to that letter, the teacher then reaches out to the family, whether that be an email or a phone call or another note home, just to connect with the family to see if there's anything that we can do to support the family and the child to increase that positive attendance. And then, and then at all elementary buildings, Lincoln, Salem, Van Allen, and Harlan, we run weekly attendance reports through Infinite Campus. And then that is for proactive, and by proactive, we mean just kind of preventing them from having worse attendance, I guess. And then also 10% attendance letters. So when a student has missed 10% of the school year, at that point in the school year, they will receive an attendance letter.
Ours is going to sound a lot like that. So we continue to send proactive and 10% letters also. We also email students and parents personally. Once a week, I usually reach out to everybody who is on my attendance list, make sure that they are well aware. Sometimes it's a face-to-face, sometimes it's an email. Sometimes if they have missed 0 days, it's like a funny meme that I send to them. I have to reach middle school sometimes, so that's how we do it. The BLT, we analyze attendance along with other warning indicators. I have come to the board before with our early warning system. It ties into that, so we continue to look at that at all our BLT meetings. We make contact with families who are reaching the 10% absenteeism rate. We call parents. We have those family engagement meetings, which is our next one. We're pretty much up to date with that. The other thing that we kind of have started doing was, because it's kind of that slump of the year that kids like to start missing, it's starting to get nice out. So we have started offering some incentives a little bit here and there. If like we have a certain grade that reaches 90% or above, they will get a reward of some sort. So we started doing that a little bit more just to kind of give some incentives to those middle schoolers.
Sorry.
At the high school, one of the things we do is send out a consecutive absence log. So what this is if a student misses 3 or more consecutive days, they're put on a spreadsheet that we send out to staff. And so we have a teacher or some sort of staff member reach out to them, make a contact with them, try to encourage them to come back to school. And then we have a weekly high school attendance meeting where we pull reports for approaching 10% absence, 10% absence, 15% to hold that family engagement meeting, and then 20% as well. And we create messaging for proactive measures to get students to come to school and positive incentives. We do a quarterly ice cream sandwich for students who have 90% attendance or better. Currently, our chronic absenteeism rate is at 11% as of today.
Could one of you or a couple of you, I did include these so that maybe, and this is in the board's packet as well. Could you just this data from Panorama? If you could just share how you look at this, how you read this when you pull up Panorama and are examining current attendance rates.
So you said high school, we have 92% of students attending daily. average daily is 95%. Typically, when we pull up Panorama, we're looking at that chronic absenteeism rate, which I say is at 11% today, and we also use Panorama to put in interventions for each kid that reaches 10%. I did forget to mention that. Each kid that reaches 10%, we put on a check-in, check-out intervention, so they have a positive adult contact within the school, so we track that within Panorama as well.
Okay. All right. So again, we updated our action planning a week or so ago for February. We'll do one more update as we get deeper into the spring. Board members, do you guys have any questions on how we're trying to address the attendance goal?
No, most of your yellow pattern was from the influenza A
Right,
and B,
right.
in the December, January timeframe.
Yeah, everything took a dip there, right there in that December, January timeframe, as you mentioned.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to give Martha credit. I just want to give Martha Peterson credit. She does a lot of this with us. She meets with a lot of us to look at our attendance rates together. With me, we do a lot of game planning of what we're going to do, how do we reach out to parents. I know I had a student that was struggling to get to the bus stop. Martha was able to get the adult some winter gear to help get the child, to walk with the child to the bus stop. So Martha does a lot with attendance. She will give some of our students rides. She helps us brainstorm different ways we can improve our students' attendance, working with both the parents and the children. So I just wanted to make sure her name got put into it.
Sure.
Any other questions from the board?
No questions, but lots of praise. You guys are putting in a lot of work. I hear multiple stories beyond what you're just sharing with us about the lengths that you guys go to ensure that our students are getting to school, whether it be going and picking up students yourselves. Like you mentioned, Martha, I mean, this is incredible that you guys are putting in this amount of dedication to make sure that our students get there and make sure that we hit our goals. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Next up, we have the superintendent report.
Okay, several things on the superintendent's report. The first thing is the one-to-one device update. On February 18th, we had our School Improvement Advisory Committee meeting. We talked about buildings, grounds, operations, and then technology. So the technology discussion, very productive. One of the things that did come out was the difficulty of using iPads, especially at the 9-12, where students are more involved in concurrent enrollment courses. Their fingers are bigger, and it makes those iPad keyboards a little bit more difficult to work with. So even prior to that meeting, we were informed by our Apple representative that Apple was actually going to come out with a lower priced laptop. And they did make that announcement last week. And so I told our representative that we would be interested in hearing from him what that could look like if we took a look at laptops again in our secondary. So he's going to come tomorrow. We have a meeting scheduled at 11:15 tomorrow, and just a couple of the details. The price for that laptop, it's gotten as low as $494. Board members, I know you have a different sheet in your packet. This was updated. This is the one that we'll be talking about tomorrow when we talk to our Apple rep. So more to come on that. That obviously would be a board decision, a full board decision, if we were to make any changes to our one-to-one device program. Wanted to share a data boost with you from the School Board Association. Board members, again, you got this in your packet. This is special education balances for fiscal year 25. Just a reminder, when special needs students are weighted heavier than a regular education student in terms of the financing that a district receives. If a student has an IEP with goals, multiple goals perhaps in their IEP, or maybe they have health services that come through their IEP, though it oftentimes costs more to provide a free and appropriate education to a special needs student. So you receive a weighted funding for those students, but sometimes that doesn't meet the total cost either. So we do everything that we can to meet the needs, but the finances that we receive for our special needs students doesn't always, sometimes it exceeds, sometimes the needs and the cost exceed the funding that we receive. So what I'm showing you here is across the state of Iowa in fiscal year 25. I'll go over here to the legend. The tan, which you can see is most of the state, the tan is districts with a negative balance requiring modified supplemental amount, a request for modified supplemental amount, modified funding. So you can see across the state, I'll just pull back out a little bit, most of the state is tan. Most districts run a special education deficit in their special education funding. This blue right here, districts with a positive balance, but below 10% of the total funding. And I'll scroll over here or pull over here to Mount Pleasant. That is where we fall, is the 10%. We do have a positive balance for fiscal year 25. It's not a lot, $68,000 when you're talking about large numbers in special education financing, but about $68,000 was our balance. Again, I just want to mention or want to say Dr. Butler's done really a great job of helping us really look at our costs, what our needs are, and how we meet the needs of our student. She did a fantastic job, spoke to the Great Prairie AEA superintendents last week about special education services, specifically adult assistance for students, and just did an outstanding job. So that's our balance, and then the lighter blue is districts with a positive balance above 10%. So not many in the dark blue or the light blue. It's a challenge. Special education funding is a challenge. We say all the time, you're one student away from having a large special education balance, based on their needs. Could be health needs, could be behavioral needs, whatever it might be. But we have to provide a free and appropriate public education for all of our students. It costs money to do that, obviously. Okay, I want to review the proposed district office floor plan. We've been talking about this. The district office is going to be moving to the second floor of the activity center on Central Campus. We have to be out of our current lease by August 1. And so we have moved forward with drawings and a floor plan for that area. So let me just quickly go through this with you. Again, this is the second floor of the activity center. This is the running track here. This is the north end of the running track. So the office reception area will be here. Not much really at all needs to be done in that area. It's pretty move-in ready. that particular area. There are offices down this hallway, and we intend to locate our central office, our payroll and human resources assistant and student and family advocate in these offices on the north. And then moving this way, we've got in this office, and there are four walls that will need to be built, and we're going to make office area out of this north side of the open area. Director of Finance will go here. Director of Curriculum and Instruction will go here. And then the Office of the Superintendent will go here. This open office area, I would envision that that's where the large conference table goes, in that area. And then if you're familiar with the activity center, this large corner area will be an open office area where we can do training, professional development, you name it. It would be an area that could serve a lot of needs. Small kitchenette area there with a sink there, and then the actual break room would be downstairs in this area right here with a kitchenette and sink down there. So really a minimal remodel on that area. We are expecting to have the plans finished and ready for competitive quotes by the end of March. I want to review the 2025-2026 calendar with you. That's this year's calendar. Just wanted to make everybody aware that due to the weather-related late starts or early outs, or we did have one full day cancellation this year. Let me scroll down here and you can take a look at this. We've had 5 late starts. Anytime we have a late start, on a 2-hour late start, it's actually 1.75 hours of instructional time, and that's what we're counting as instructional time. So 5 late starts equals 8 3/4 hours. We've had 1 early out, same thing, it's 1 3/4 hours on early out. And then we've had 1 full day of cancellation due to weather. You add those together and you get a total of 17 hours. We started the year in the calendar with 1,098 instructional hours. So if we subtract the 17 hours that we have missed, we're left with 1,081. When we see this thing all the way to the end of the year. There are 1,080 hours that are required by state code. So we're to the good by 1 hour. So if we were to have another late start or an early out, we would need to look at either making up that time by coming back to school in June, or what you could do, what the board could decide, and you did decide to do this last year. We actually used a couple of the Friday early outs to gain back some instructional time, because one of the common things that we hear from our parents, especially through teachers and parents, especially through our SIAC committee, is that they just prefer kids to be finished in May. So right now, we can still make that happen. If we miss again, then we would be looking at going full day perhaps on a Friday or two. So, some update on that calendar. I want to give you a legislative update. Many things happening in the legislature, as you guys know. This is the most recent update from Dave Doughton at the School Administrators of Iowa. The school supplemental aid bill was signed by the governor. It was signed at 2%, so an increase in per pupil funding of 2%. This puts us right at that about $8,100 per student. 2% in transportation equity. Generally, we have not qualified for that funding in transportation equity. This you will find of interest. $42 million has been allocated to cover the budget guarantee. The budget guarantee amounts, which Mount Pleasant will be on the budget guarantee next year, it would have equated to, if I remember right, about 40 cents in additional property tax rate. But the state is going to cover the budget guarantees. And that's just for fiscal year 27 is the way the legislation reads. This is interesting. Currently, we do certified enrollment one time per year in October. We take the count on October 1, and then we certify on October 15th. The law not proposes, this is in law now, a second enrollment count in January, and then you would take the average of those two. So Dave said there may be some adjustments in that language, but we will be doing 2 certified enrollment counts next year. $7 million in additional funding for support staff. For the last 2 years, that's been $14 million, so they cut that in half. He mentioned that House membership still wants more, and they're going to continue to be working on that. Whether that comes in the appropriations bill, it's hard to say, but they did cut that in half for support staff. And then this is of interest as well. State aid, which is currently it's paid monthly, 9 months out of the year. State aid is going to be paid quarterly starting next year, July 1. Property taxes, it has not passed yet. The governor's bill and the Senate bill have both had subcommittee meetings. Dave mentioned they absolutely want to do something, but they just don't know how it's all going to come together regarding property tax changes. Other things that are on the docket but not passed yet, changes in open enrollment for ELL, changing the deadlines for ELL students. I thought this was interesting. They're calling it a bridge for student information systems. Right now, there's 3 student information systems that are used across the state. We use one called Infinite Campus. A lot of schools use one called Power School, and then there's one that's not as widely used. It's called JMC. But last year at this time, they were talking about making us all go to one system. But the legislation now is, well, we're gonna develop a bridge so that all systems would feed into that and be more usable at the state level. This is interesting, allowing open enrolled out students to participate in extracurriculars in resident districts. Right now, the only students that are allowed to do that are students who open enroll out to accredited online programs, and you can participate in 2 activities, but they're talking about that. We talked about this before, that cash must be allowed at school events. That has not been passed. They do think that will pass. So if you've ever been frustrated by going to an event somewhere and you haven't bought a ticket, or you got to use your credit or debit card, there is, it looks like law is going to pass that would force schools to take cash at school events. We have always taken cash. Operational sharing for CTE teachers, interesting, could be helpful. There is a health bill that comes with some interesting things. It would prohibit dyes in school foods. PE extracurriculars would require elementary students to have 30 minutes of PE per day. All 912 students would be required to participate in a co-curricular or extracurricular activity in order to graduate. So some of those are, it would seem to me, are a stretch, but it does have to do with a desire to see, our kids in healthy activities. ESA fund flexibility, the funds that do come to public districts when a student or when a family does opt for an ESA could go to the general fund and be used for any general fund use. They're looking at teaching endorsement alternatives for both fine arts and for career and technical education. And this would be a big one. If this was passed, it's requiring students to pay for concurrent enrollment courses if they fail the concurrent enrollment course. Currently, you're not allowed to do that. So if a student takes a concurrent enrollment course, post-secondary course, and they fail it, they do not have to pay for the course. The district takes that responsibility. So that's the legislative update. The School Improvement Advisory Committee, I just wanted to briefly share with you, I mentioned earlier, we had our February 18th School Improvement Advisory Committee. There were some definite themes that came out of that committee. Just as a reminder, the School Improvement Advisory Committee is a committee about 40 or so people, parents, students, teachers, administrators, board members, and our conversation this last month, I mentioned technology was one of the conversations. These are the themes from the other conversation, which was around buildings, grounds, and operations for the district. What seems to be going well, and what are our points of pain? And so we had table conversation and then took all of those notes. And I'll just go down to the kind of the theme area here. The overall sentiment as it pertains to facilities leadership and the operation teams. The overall sentiment, the people running the facilities and transportation are a major district strength. Central campus is a major asset with untapped potential. The theme there, synthesized from all the notes, is that Central Campus is a valued community and student asset, and stakeholders want expanded and strategic use of it. Transportation systems are strong, but access and logistics need refinement. The theme there with transportation is a strength operationally, but equity and logistics, especially logistical pickups and drop-offs, need improvement, was the theme. Elementary space and long-term directions are a major concern. The theme there was that the district needs a clear, forward-looking facilities plan for elementary buildings. Number 5, safety and security improvements are appreciated but not consistent. The theme there, safety is a priority and improving, but inconsistencies across buildings remain. And then finally, maintenance, cleanliness, and infrastructure upkeep need attention. While crews are appreciative, aging infrastructure and deferred maintenance are becoming more visible. So this is the high-level summary here from SIAC. The district benefits from strong facilities leadership, responsive crews, effective transportation systems, and valuable assets like Central Campus. However, long-term elementary space planning, pickup and drop-off logistics, facility equity across the buildings, and infrastructure upkeep represent the most pressing strategic challenges. The feedback suggests readiness for a comprehensive elementary facilities decision a master facilities and enrollment study, transportation flow redesign in key buildings, and strategic investment planning for aging infrastructure. Those were the notes and themes from our SIAC meeting. The March 23rd work session is the last thing on the superintendent's report. We will have a certified budget public hearing. That will be our first of two. We went over this in the Finance Committee meeting on Friday. Actually, both Thursday and Friday. We went over this at both our committee meetings. Right now, we have a grand total levy rate of about $12.10. Our current levy rate is $11.97. As I told the committee, the Finance Committee, as we look at this and we work through this, I do anticipate that that total levy rate will come down. Wanted you guys to see some things in how we build out that levy rate. One of the main things is the instructional support levy at 10% and how the board would like to fund the instructional support levy. Right now, 8% of that approximately $1 million is funded through income surtax. 8% in this overall levy. 8% is income surtax, which means an 8% income surtax is applied. Whatever that generates is what it generates, and then the rest is made up in property taxes. So the higher your income surtax rate goes, the lower your property tax is going to be. So we can make adjustments in that as we go through this budgeting process. And then the other thing that we talked about specifically was the management fund levy. Right now, our levy is representing $1.25 million in the management fund. Remember that our management fund, the lion's share of our management fund is property insurance, property casualty insurance, and workman's compensation. That's the lion's share. And the reason that we're talking about this, looking at it, is because all school districts in Iowa that are insured by EMC are responsible for a 1% deductible for any wind and hail damage. It's 1% of the total insured value of each of the properties. So we just want to make sure that we have dollars in the management fund if we had a wind or hail event, and if it was a total event, we want to make sure that we have enough in that management fund to cover all of the requirements, including that 1% wind and hail. So maybe that stays at 1.25 million. Maybe we can take that down a little bit. That's a conversation that we can have. So again, I would anticipate that this levy rate right here at $12.10 will come down. We just need to make sure that we're being real responsible in our approach to it. And then finally, in the superintendent's report, we did go over this at the site committee meeting. I will just very quickly go through, because we will have additional conversations about this. We're planning for our, actually I should say fiscal year 27 buildings and grounds projects. We've got just the list that we went through with the committee on Thursday. So just more to come on this. And for, again, any of our public, or if you're live streaming, this is on the website, our buildings and grounds project list, potential project list for fiscal year 27. A couple of things we're still waiting on some costs for. Right now, the total for that is $1.238 million. That would be funded through our capital projects fund, which is our penny sales tax. The penny sales tax fund can only be used on physical plant and equipment kinds of things. It cannot be used for any kind of personnel reasons, salaries, benefits, anything like that. It can only be used for physical plant and equipment. We would anticipate next year revenue totals of revenue about 2.4 million and dollars that would be available for projects, just about $5 million total. If you were to use everything, which we won't. We're generally right around $1 million in our final list. That's the superintendent's report.
Any questions?
John, I just had one piece of feedback for the school calendar update. I've heard from several staff members that one thing they might like to see is that hourly countdown that we just went over in some form of a live, running tally throughout the year that can be checked on either through our
Okay.
website or on our social media, just so, community and staff have an idea of where we're at with that.
Makes sense. Okay.
Next up, we have board committee reports.
Can I just have one real quick question? Not specific to any of this, but do we have any update on how many applications have come in for using the walking track?
I am going to say, Craig, and I haven't asked, initially there was about 25 is the number of keys and such that went out, but I will check on that and give you an update.
All right, board committee reports. We met on Thursday and Friday. The notes are included. Who would like to share any of those meetings? Site committee meeting, we did go over the list, the buildings or the improvement list that we just looked at. We did have some questions. There are some things still. That's what the work session, there'll be more conversation there. The floor plan, the SIAC, we reviewed all of that as well. And then we reviewed and had significant discussion about the proposed general fund phase 1 budget reduction. So that was our first conversation at that, as well as looking at the phase 2. Policy, we did go through the 600 series. There were a couple items, which that'll be a new business as well with our first reading of that. There is one more series that we'll have to go through before the end of the year to get them all on the new numbering system. A couple overnight requests, that'll be a new business as well. Finance, we went through all the expenditures as we do every month. We also went through the certified budget. We talked just briefly about the inputs there. That'll be on the work session agenda for the 23rd as well. We went over the spending plan. We talked about the Apple leases, school calendar, and we talked about the proposed phase 1 and phase 2 as well. We did have some guests on both days. Had some questions, had some comments. Some are surrounding Salem, some surrounding questions about the proposed budget reductions. We will talk about that in new business. Did I miss anything? We did have some significant conversations in the both Chad Bankhouse and Anna Carlson were there when we talked about the transportation and some of the building improvements as well. Any other board communication? all had some emails from staff, community, family in regards to the proposed budget reductions, as well as our communication and what happens in committee meetings as well. I didn't receive anything else. Did anybody else receive it? Okay. On to consent items, we have personnel and open enrollment. We can take these separately or as one. That was a topic as well, open enrollment, and we had some conversations in finance committee around open enrollment, why people leave the district. Do we need to look at again, what can we do better to get more students to stay and not leave? So there was some conversation about that in the finance committee meeting as well. Any questions on personnel or open enrollment?
I have none, I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jessica, roll call.
Blint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
We have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Our first item is consideration to approve Phase 1 General Fund budget reductions for the 26-27 school year.
Okay, so I think it's important, I know it's important to go through this presentation again, and board members that you've heard me do this. I'm going to do it again because I think it's very important. We went through this presentation a month ago at the regular board meeting, and we looked at some of the changes that need to happen in our general fund. And then 2 weeks ago, we had with us Tim Oswald from Piper Sandler School Financing was here on site, and then we had Ken Sturgis who was with us from Iowa School Finance Information Systems. So when we're talking about these reductions, we are talking about the general fund only, and we're talking about what's the forecast. What's the forecast for next year? What's the forecast? Really, we're trying to look ahead 2 years, because you get that much further out with school financing, there's a lot of, it's like forecasting the weather. It just gets harder. You know, you don't know what's the state aid going to be, what's enrollment going to be. It just gets more difficult. So you're really trying to look a couple of years out. So let me talk a little bit about how Iowa school funding works. Public schools in Iowa are primarily funded through state supplemental aid. We talked about that earlier. State supplemental aid is set by the state government each year, and it's largely based on student enrollment. So that state supplemental aid is the per pupil amount that we receive each year for each student. The governor signed 2% SSA, so it was an increase from the previous year of $7,998 or $989, and then 2% on top of that, so just over $8,000 per student. So that, in large part, is how Iowa schools are funded. Federal funds, we do receive some federal funds. Those are restricted to specific purposes, but they do come into the general fund, which is what we're talking about. A good example of that is Title I funding. Title I funding is the largest federal program amount of dollars that we receive. And then also some local property taxes, but there are limitations on how those could be used. So as we looked at property taxes earlier, the management fund can only be used for management fund items. The physical plant and equipment fund can only be used for physical plant and equipment kinds of things. School funds all have their own silo or their own bucket, and you can only use funds out of certain buckets for certain things. The general fund can only be used for certain things. I just shared what this slide says. School funding comes in different buckets of money. Each bucket has its own rules. Not all money that comes into the school district can be used for salaries, benefits, and staffing. So you might ask the question, and hopefully that kind of explains it. Why are we talking about budget reductions when we're spending money on building repairs, on projects, on upgrades, etc.? Well, that's because building projects and those upgrades and repairs are most often paid from a spending bucket that cannot be used for salaries, benefits, or other daily operating expenses. So let's talk specifically about the general fund. When we're discussing budget reductions, we are specifically talking about the general fund. The general fund is the bucket of money that pays for the daily operations of the district. Staff salaries, staff benefits, utilities, supplies, transportation-related costs, and other operational costs all come out of the general fund. So you have to keep in mind that when we're discussing budget reductions, we're specifically talking about the general fund, and you do need to keep in mind that approximately 80 to 85% of the general fund is spent on personnel-related expenses, salaries, and benefits. Any school district across Iowa, the general fund, 80 to 85% of that fund is going to be personnel related. We're a people business, and so the lion's share of the general fund is spent on personnel. While there are some restrictions within the general fund, staffing is where most of the dollars are allocated. Already mentioned this. Iowa Public Schools, 80 to 85% of the general fund budget is spent on personnel. So, when a district has to reduce its expenditures in the general fund by a significant amount, as Mount Pleasant does, we have to look at gaining staff efficiencies in the general fund. So let's talk a little bit about how did we get here? How did we get to this point where we're needing to make these general fund reductions? Well, I would tell you, and have told you before, that there's not a single reason, not a single reason, as to why we're at this point. There's several reasons. One is low state supplemental aid. We're going to talk about that just a bit. Low state supplemental aid increases. Again, remember, that's when I mentioned that the governor signed the 2% bill, or the 2% increase in the bill. That's what we're talking about. Declining enrollment, another major reason how we got here. Increasing costs that the district does not control. And then the conclusion of federal funding. So we're going to talk about each of these in these next slides. Low supplemental state aid. Now I know you can't, people in the audience, I know you can't see that. I can't make it any bigger on the presentation, but I would again just let you know all of this is on, all these documents are on the website. These years back here in fiscal year 06, 07, 08, 09, and 10, those were all 4% increases in state supplemental aid. In those years, you could just about guarantee, well, we're going to get 4% state supplemental aid, so we can do our budgeting and figuring our line item budget based on state supplemental aid. You can see after fiscal year 10 and fiscal year 11, it dropped down to 2%. We did have a year in fiscal 12 where we got 0%, jumped back up to 2%, and then we had a year of 4%, back down to 1.25%, and then it went up to 2.25%, and then it's been somewhere around 2% the remaining time. We did have a year where they kind of mixed and matched and put different things and put some limitations on how things could be spent, but they counted that all and said we were at 3%, and then last year was 2.5%, and this year it's 2%. The concern with that state supplemental aid is that's what funds the general fund. And you have increases in you have increases in all your costs, utilities, contract settlements, health insurance, all of that is paid from the general fund, and state supplemental aid is a big factor in all of that. The other thing that we mentioned, how did we get here, was declining enrollment. So again, I apologize that I can't make that bigger. This goes all the way back to fiscal year 2000, okay? That number right there, the dot where we're starting, was 2,117. That was our total K-12 enrollment in classrooms in fiscal year 2000. You can see the next couple years it took a dip down to about 2,000, and then we peaked out in fiscal year 07 at 2,172 total students in the classrooms, grades K to 12, in that year, 07. 2,172. That is not counting, there wasn't any preschool back then, so we're not counting preschool students. So we go all the way to here, you can see the enrollment trend. Down here to fiscal year 26, the number of students in the K-12 classrooms, total enrollment, 1,648. So again, I am not counting, that does not represent preschool, because we now have preschool, but I wanted to stay consistent on the number. It's a decline of 524 students, which we'll talk about a little bit here. One of the other reasons on how did we get here, increasing costs that the district doesn't control. You all experience this, I'm sure, in your areas and businesses as well. Health insurance costs, utility costs, transportation, fuel, etc., and then other contracted services that we contract for that other vendors provide. All of those things have increased over the years. And then finally, on how did we get here, the conclusion of federal funding. From fiscal year 21 through fiscal year 24, Mount Pleasant Community School District received just over $4 million in federal funding, and it was called the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Act. We referred to them as COVID dollars, COVID relief dollars. Those amounts were based on Title I eligibility, and Mount Pleasant's, as a district, our Title I eligibility, which is based on our free and reduced lunch percentages, Mount Pleasant received significant dollars, as it said, because of that. If you had higher Title I eligibility, you got more dollars. And so $4,025 in federal funds over those years. Those funds concluded in fiscal year 24. And as we should have, the district added or we maintained staff during those years from fiscal year 21 through 24. We added or we maintained staff to help support our students during the COVID-19 pandemic. And those staff were supported by federal funds, and those funds have come to an end. We held on to teaching staff during that time. We added guidance staff. We added social services staffing. We added health services added staffing. So those are the reasons how we got to where we are at today, and the need to look at our general fund and these reductions. The need to reduce general fund expenditures is not unique to Mount Pleasant Community School District. Districts across the state of Iowa, for all of those reasons and the conclusion of those federal funds, if you had an ear to your news feeds at all, you will know that districts across the state of Iowa are grappling with significant reductions in their general funds. So we want to take a look at future enrollment and fiscal projections. Enrollment drives funding. Let's take a look at future enrollment and fiscal projections. So I'm gonna jump out of the slideshow because I know you can't see that. Board members, you have this in your packet, but I am gonna bring this up. We've looked at this several times, and I'll try and make this as big as I can so people can see. The Department of Education does enrollment projections based on live births and based on the continuity of students who are at one grade level and then transition to the next grade level. They take a percentage and then they apply that percentage going forward. And the Department of Education develops projections. So what I tried to do here in this table is show that in 2016-17, the department projected that our certified enrollment would be 1,961. The actual was 1,970. So if you just go down through 2017-18, the projection on certified enrollment was 1,953. The actual was 1,933. So you can see the trend there. Let's go up a few years during those pandemic years. There was a couple of years where there was no data on the projection side of things. In 2020, 2021, they had projected 1,911. The actual was 1,858. We did have an increase in 2024. The projection was 1,709. The actual was 1,557. And then this fall, October of 25, they projected 1,702. The actual was 1,705. So you can see, going forward, they'll project out for 5 years. Their most recent projections take us up through the 2029-2030 school year. So they projected 1,650, and then to 1,626, 1,567, and then to 1,523. So I'm going to go back to our slideshow. Whoop, there we go. As you look at the future projections, I'm going to go back to that 2007 and 2008 school year. We were serving 2,172 students, grades K to 12, in 7 attendance centers. High school, middle school, 4 elementary buildings, and Wisdom Quest. In 2025-26, serving 1,648 students, grades K to 12, in that same configuration, 7 attendance centers. High school, middle school, 4 elementaries, and alternative high school. That's a difference of 524 students, basically over a generation's time. And the projections would show a continued decrease. So I want to talk about a framework for general fund reductions. I'm proposing a 2-phase approach. I want to talk a little bit about a school district's financial health in terms of unspent authorized budget. I would say unspent authorized budget is the key indicator on a school district's financial health. And I would say, based on the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago with Tim Oswald and Ken Sturgis, they would agree that unspent authorized budget is that key indicator. Unspent authorized budget is spending authority. It's not cash. It gives a district permission to spend. It's like your credit card limit. It gives flexibility for unexpected needs. A school district with some unspent authorized budget has managed their spending conservatively. A district with some unspent authorized budget has planned ahead rather than maxing out every dollar every year. How do you build unspent authorized budget? You spend a little bit less than what you take in for revenue each year. That's how you build unspent authorized budget. Having a balance of unspent authorized budget keeps school districts functional, flexible, and stable, especially in a state like Iowa where funding growth is tight and enrollment volatility is real. We've experienced all of that, and we have leaned on our unspent authorized budget over the last 2 years to get us where we're at right now. We've leaned on it the last 2 years, fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26. Okay. So I want to take a quick look at the general fund forecasting spreadsheet. Bring this back up. I'll make this as big as I can. I won't go through every line here. The point that I want to try to share with you is your maximum district dollars, your miscellaneous income, your instructional support levy, and your preschool foundation aid. That is what your revenues are and what they're going to be for the year. So in fiscal year 19, you add all of those together and you get your current year authority or your current year revenue. In fiscal 19 was $22,340,149. So then I'm going to scroll down here to total expenditures. We had total expenditures in fiscal year 19 of $21,343,149. $859,451. That was 97.8% of our revenue. So we spent 97.8% of our revenue in fiscal year 19. So I'm going to scroll along here. This is fiscal year 20. You can see we spent 98%, 98.3% of our revenue in fiscal year 20. Fiscal year 21, 98.14%. Sure I got the right fiscal year there. Fiscal year 22, we spent 99.14% of our revenues. Again, we're building unspent budget authority by doing that. And we're spending most of the revenue that we have coming in. 97, 98, 99%. Fiscal year 23, 97.16%. You can see fiscal year 24. This is where the federal funding ended. The COVID funding ended. So I'm gonna go up here to miscellaneous income and show you the ESSER dollars came in and they are coded to miscellaneous income. So you can see in fiscal year 24, the final year of the ESSER funding, $4,741,259 in miscellaneous income. And if you look here to fiscal year 25, when we did not receive any of those federal funds, about $1.5 million fewer dollars in miscellaneous income. So fiscal year 25 has ended. That ended last June 30th. You can see our total revenue, $24.559 million, and we spent $25.290 million. We spent 103% of our unspent, we spent 103% of our revenue. Now I will tell you again, the board, we did this, eyes wide open. We knew this. Why did we do this? Why did we do this the last 2 years? Well, we had built up $6.9 million in unspent authorized budget authority. We felt like we could carry that. We could carry the staffing levels that we had into fiscal year 25, and we actually carried those same staffing levels into fiscal year 26. That's the year that we're in right now, fiscal year 26. So these are estimates of current year authority, fiscal year 26, revenues of about $24.8 million, budgeted expenditures of $24.911 million. So in fiscal year 25, we spent 103% of the revenue. In fiscal year 26, we're scheduled, or on pace, scheduled to spend 104% of total revenue. And again, taking unspent authorized budget, we were at 6.9, and then to 6.1, and then just estimating a $1 million decrease in our unspent authorized budget to $5.1 million. So again, the question, why do we need to make these budget reductions? It just picks up steam if you don't make any changes to your general fund expenditures. Your enrollment is decreasing, our enrollment is decreasing, with that, our funding is decreasing. It's again, there is no federal funding anymore. And so if you made no changes in fiscal year 27, that's next year, if you made no changes to fiscal year 27, you're looking at spending about 107% of revenue, which would take your unspent authorized budget down to about $3.4 million. And then if you took that out to fiscal year 28, at that point, if you made no changes, kept your staffing levels, 2% increase in expenditures each year. This also represents a 35 student decrease in enrollment. Then you're looking at spending in fiscal 28, 110% of revenue. And that it quickly takes your unspent authorized budget, that spending authority down. Go back to our slideshow. What I'm recommending is a two-phase approach on the funding, and I'm also going to show you the projection that IFSIS and Piper Sandler put together. I'll get through this and I'll show you that as well. A phase one of approximately $940,000 in general fund reductions. Those would be staffing reductions and reassignments, programming reductions. We'll talk about these. Purchase service reductions and attendance center consolidation. And for that attendance center consolidation, the plan is we're gonna move Wisdom Quest from its site to the high school building. And then a second phase in 27-28 of approximately $815,000 in general fund reductions. It'll be staffing reductions and reassignments, and then attendance center consolidation. So at the time when I did this, I said a more comprehensive overview of budget reduction actions will be provided in the coming weeks. Here we are, and that's what I want to go over next is those reductions. So this is the document, one of the documents that IFSIS put together for us. Their assumptions were a 2.34% increase in annual operating costs, and they also assumed a 35 student reduction per year. Their recommendation was $1.3 million for fiscal year 26-27, and then another $500,000 in fiscal year 27, then another $500,000 in fiscal year 28. And then just based on that 35 student reduction and 2.34% annual increase in operating expenses, they would recommend, or at least say, be prepared for $500,000 each year following that. And I know that's the world that they operate in. I understand why they're telling us that. I would just again say you get much further than 2 years out in school financing. You have to keep your eye on the ball, but you get much further out than 2 years in school financing, and it gets harder to make those projections. But that's the recommendation that we got from them. Whoop, I got a scroll. Sorry about that. So what I'm recommending to you this evening, I'll break this down and then give you my recommendation or questions that you have. Phase one reductions for fiscal year 27 would be personnel reductions. Would be both certified and non-certified, totaling about $713,415. As soon as I can there. Support programming reductions in the instructional area would be the elimination of the VIBE program, the contract that we have with Burlington Community School District, about $26,000. The elimination of summer school at about $73,000. We would reduce our Four Oaks contract, about $15,000. And then we've already reduced our AEA services contract by $9,237. And then support programs other, these would be not directly related to instruction, but reduction in support personnel time, and then reducing overtime, about $35,000, $34,000 we think we could save. Moving non-instructional software to PEPL, which is allowed if it's non-instructional, we can move that to PEPL. That would save about $11,000. And then reduction in utilities based on our move, the central office move, the buildings that we've sold. We think we can save just over $46,000 in utility costs. It's for a total of $936,093. So I'll talk about phase 2 as well. What's on the agenda tonight is phase 1 reductions, and so I'll come back to that, but we'll just phase 2. We're trying to get to somewhere near that $1.8 million as recommended. Phase 2 for fiscal year 28, system-wide reductions. This would represent basically personnel reductions of about $290,000, and then the closure of Salem Elementary, which would be school-wide reductions of $523,656 for a total of $813,656. And that's how we get to about that $1.8 million over 2 fiscal years. So I will stop there. The recommendation to the board tonight is to consider approval of phase 1 general fund budget reductions for 27. My recommendation, what I'm asking you for is approval that you would approve approximately up to $940,000 in general fund reductions for fiscal year 27.
John, on this spreadsheet, where do you give miscellaneous income? What could account for that?
Miscellaneous income?
Yeah.
The lion's share of miscellaneous income is really 2 things. One is open enrollment revenues, and the other is Title I funding. Would you say those 2 things?
Not if we sell a building, the money can't go into that?
If we sell a building, generally it depends on how the building was paid for. So if a building, if a building was built using, PEPL funding or penny cent funding, that would go back into the fund that it came from. I guess I don't know. If you sold a building, could those funds go to the general fund? Yeah, they would go to the fund that it came from. I would have to check specifically on we just have to check with the department on if that can go to the general fund.
I think one of the biggest questions that we asked and talked about was, what does personnel reduction mean? We're asking to approve it obviously it's personnel, so that isn't public information, so the school board's responsibility is hiring and firing of a superintendent. We don't hire and fire other personnel, but so these reductions would be made by the district, and we're approving these general personnel reductions, which is why the positions aren't listed.
Right. We have to legally honor the process of reduction in force. And so part of that in reduction in force would be notification of certified personnel, teaching personnel. Part of the process of the reduction in force would be notifying personnel that their contract will not be renewed based on budgetary reductions. So when that happens, if that happens, the superintendent would notify the personnel and give personnel, give affected personnel paper notification of that happening. That then gives that person some rights to potentially speak to the board, to have a hearing before the board if they would like to do that. But that notification to that person would not, and after that time, the person who is affected, the board would vote on that individually. So each person who is reduced would be an agenda item by name that the board would vote on for reduction. And that can't happen until people would be notified.
Those employees that position is being eliminated for the next school year, if there was another position open in the district, then can you talk about that?
I can. I will. We, in building this with the administrative team, we've tried to stay as far away from classrooms and the effect on classrooms and students as we could. And that's what these reductions would represent, an attempt to stay away from the classrooms. To answer your specific question, Angie, we do have some vacancies in hard-to-fill areas. We've got a vacancy in high school English language learners. We have a vacancy in the industrial tech program. We have other vacancies that are hard to fill. Would the district support teachers who are interested in continuing to teach for the district and potentially get that endorsement, even if the district, even if that person needed a conditional license for a year, would the district do that? Yes. And so we know that if that happened, we could lessen the effect on classrooms.
I want to ask our principals in the building how this will affect them. I'm not speaking of the personnel because we can't go into any of that, but the other listed items. Can you guys kind of go through that and see how that will be affected within your particular building? What the students will feel, what the staff will feel, so that we can get an understanding of what we're doing here.
You want to speak about the non-personnel reduction?
Non-personnel. Yeah.
Do you want, hey Dalton, let's grab the mic, will you, since we're streaming.
Okay, so as far as the listed items there, eliminating the bike program, right now at the high school level, we only have 2 students, actually we're down to 1 student now who's enrolled in the bike program. I think we're gonna be a little creative with Wisdom Quest out here, but I think we can accommodate some of the students who are using that type of programming there, here. I think we can accommodate that through Wisdom Quest out here. Summer school, that's something we weren't planning on having, so we kind of got creative a little bit actually this year already. After the first semester, we did an opportunity for credit recovery for our kids, which is what summer school for high school level has been the last few years. And actually, we're able to redeem 17 credits through that. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like second semester just yet. We got to get a little creative with that as well. So we knew that was coming, so we weren't banking on having summer school, I guess what I'm saying. Renewal of the Four Oaks contract, as far as Four Oaks, we really use Brittany, is who we use out here at the high school. As far as impact directly on students, it's hard to say what that direct impact would be out here at high school because a lot of that comes from, she does book studies with our staff. She's been a part of our student assistance team this year, which is something she has not been a part of years past. So direct impact on students, it's really hard to say, but it's been good for our staff. And then reduce AEA services contract out here at the high school. We don't use a tremendous amount of that right now here at the high school. We have our social worker and our consultant for the academic side of things out here at high school, which is not a part of that. Outside of that, we don't use a bunch of other AEA services out here at the high school level. Is there anything else on there you want me to speak to?
The support programs, reduced overtime, reduction in support personnel time, that's more of a across the district.
Right.
We're speaking, so.
Right.
Not necessarily seeing it in the buildings, potentially, more just throughout the district as a whole a little.
Yeah, correct. I mean, is there some overtime at necessary times? Yes, there has been in the buildings. We'll just have, the goal is to work and get those things done in the allotted time that we have. But most of the overtime comes from different services rather than in the building.
As far as overtime in high school, I mean, weekly we approve hours. Anybody I see that's overtime, I try to follow up with, have a conversation about, and we've really been diligent here lately trying to, hey, if you need to stay after just a little bit, that's going to be approved by us here in the office so that we know. We can answer that question when we're asked why do people get overtime.
As far as the middle school goes, the VIBE program, my understanding is we're gonna try to do something in-house so that would have a pretty minimal effect. We're gonna try to work with Ingenuity to provide some online programming. It's not been a great connection for us, like the Burlington, it's been a little bit cumbersome. So I would say that that's pretty negligible. Summer school, we haven't had summer school. We didn't have it last year. In an ideal world, would we have summer school to enrich, of course, and to close gaps? Sure. Four Oaks, again, our work with Brittany's been great. She works on social emotional health, helping teachers and students alike sort of regulate. But again, I don't know the degree to which we still will be having some contact with Brittany. AEA services contract, all of our direct services for special ed will still be provided, and that's primarily how we use the AEA. Again, support personnel time, I have to get into real details to see how that's going to affect the middle school. Overtime, we have very little overtime at middle school. It's rare. It's basically when a kid gets left, doesn't get picked up on the bus, and our secretaries stay and help us contact parents and figure that out. So the non-personnel things, I would say, would not have a high impact on student outcomes at the middle school.
we don't do the bike program for the elementaries, so that wouldn't have any impact on us. When it comes to summer school, we do run summer school every year. I would go off of what Mr. Adams just said. Would it be great to be able to do it? Yes. The last year we did it was for 3 weeks. We cut it down, cut it back each year. Four Oaks, we do use Four Oaks more in the elementaries. It's more adult, and then how do the adults then take it on to the kids than it is a direct effect to the kids. And then the AEA services, the parts that we do use, we are still contracted for next year. So since the AEA services have changed with the legislature and their funding, we've had to figure out our part of how we're going to do it. And so it was last year our first year where we had to do that. And I think after that we learned, we didn't need that many days. So we were able to actually just cut back naturally after figuring that part out. So, and as for what they said for the reduction in support personnel, reduce overtime, I don't have a ton at my building for overtime. I'm sure the other buildings probably don't either for elementary. Does that answer?
Yes. Thank you.
Dr. Butler, would you please do the same, just as you've had a lot of conversations about this?
Yeah, I don't know that I have too much to add. They did a nice job of summarizing that. The VIBE program, we are looking at an alternative in-house solution for our students who need that level of support that I'm pretty optimistic about. Summer school, obviously, if we could, that would be nice, but that's something that we are looking at ways during the school year to meet those unmet needs before the school year ends. For Oaks, there is with this, there's a piece left there to still do some of the Four Oaks work. Obviously not to the extent that we're currently doing Four Oaks, but we want to try to do some of that. There's been a lot of work done to build the trauma-informed culture that we have, and we want to hold on to a piece of that, so that's why there is a reduce and not an eliminate in front of Four Oaks there. And then obviously reducing that AE services contract, I did share that with you guys, and we do have the pieces that we feel are most important for the services contract from the AEA.
Okay. I think one of the other pieces that we discussed and addressed was that this phase one came up with by the administrative team collectively, that all of the buildings participated in the analysis, and that it wasn't one person didn't make the decision alone.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that at some point. The kind of timeline of how we arrived here, like we have said several times, we've been looking over this data we look at it every year when we set our budget. And like John has said, we've known for the past 2 years what the ending of federal funding has done for our UAB. So we've had a good pulse on this, and we've known that coming up, this $1.8 million was on the horizon. And so the board has been aware of that, and we then, a few months ago, put it in the hands of our administration to say, it's now time for you all to come up with a plan on how this might look carried out throughout the district. And we've got a great administrative team. They really took time with this, multiple meetings, and they're gonna do what's best for their buildings. They're not going to make decisions that are going to negatively impact them if they don't have to. So there's a certain amount of trust there between the board and the administration. They have proven to us that they are worthy of trust. And on the other side of it, you don't want us board members making those kinds of decisions. They are the professionals. They are the ones working in the buildings day to day. We don't. So if we were to be deemed, responsible for making these exact decisions for personnel, that wouldn't be the best use of resources and the people making, or the right people making those decisions. So we gave it to them. They worked very hard, and this list that we're now looking at and debating tonight was put together from their research, their work. So it's not one person, like Angie was just saying, it's a whole team of people that have worked, and if this is the plan that they say it is what's needed, then I don't have any reason to believe otherwise.
We have had discussions about with the ESSER funding, we added or coded roughly $450,000 in those years to staffing positions were coded to the ESSER funding. So we knew that at least $450,000, if not more, was gonna come out of staffing because that's what we had been coding to their extra with that miscellaneous income. So we did have that conversation as well with those positions that were listed before. It was roughly around $450,000 a year.
This working. This is tough. Very tough. And I'm going to date myself here, but I was on the end of a pink slip in the 1980s. 1983 and 84, school districts in the state of Iowa were asked to reduce their budgets. State legislature has put us under fire. You figure what they've given us for next year is about $1 a day for a kid. $1 a day. I just heard the news coming in here tonight, gas went up 50 cents a gallon in the last week. So our state legislature is putting us behind the bars, you might say, and crunching it because the priority is not the kids of the state of Iowa. Now, I don't have grandkids going to school in Mount Pleasant, but I have grandkids going to school in other districts in Iowa. They're under the same thing. They're under the same fire. Much greater cuts than Mount Pleasant. I didn't understand in 1983 and 84 when I received my pink slip. I thought, well, why can't they move money over here? It's easy. It's easy. You have to do it at home. But that's not the rules of the game that we're under. The buckets that we have are the buckets that we have to work with. The money is just not there. For a lot of reasons. And John went through the reasons. It's tough sitting there waiting if you're going to get that slip or not. I did. I lost a coaching position. And I was a young coach with a young family, and I needed every dollar I needed in order to make it. And I didn't understand why it had to be done that way. Now, what we've gone through here, I understand it much better. Not that I totally agree with it, but it's the buckets that we have. I feel for the people that are facing this, and the people that are sitting out there tonight wondering, am I going to be one? I remember that. It's tough. We have to be behind them, do everything we can, and I would support, I see a supervisor sitting here, I think we ought to get the governments of Henry County together, to work together, to attract more people to the city of Mount Pleasant, to the Henry County, to go to our schools and do things in our county. So we can collaborate, we can share, we do some now, we can find other ways to do this. So it's tough.
The other conversations we had as well is that the cuts and reductions don't end here, but we still have to continue. The easiest way to get more income is to get more students, right? So we had questions about why do students leave? Why open enrollment? We can continue to do that. There's been some conversations at committee meetings on how do we make our schools more attractive, How do we attract more students? How do we market ourselves better? What are our strengths? Those are things that we can do a better job. How do we address parent concerns? How does the district address parent concerns when they come up so that more students don't with the district? Those are all things we have to continue to do in order to minimize the future effects of reductions that we'll have to keep doing. So we have had some of those discussions. Those aren't gonna help us right now, but we do have to keep looking forward at those different energy reductions, different sources, master plan, how do we eliminate some of the redundancy of resources that we might have? How do we get students and staff in the right place at the right time? Those are all questions we have to answer moving forward with all of those other opportunities that we have in front of us that we have to complete the other things that we've started.
Yeah, to me, I would like to have seen a little more focus on utilities, transportation, the non-personnel costs. I understand the need for cuts, but it seems very heavy to personnel.
Do we have other questions for John? The district?
John, are you able to give certified versus non-certified, what we're looking at numbers wise?
Are you talking about number of personnel?
Number of personnel, yep. Number of certified personnel, number of non-certified personnel.
I'm just trying to, I'm trying to make sure that I'm gonna honor the process, sorry. I'm trying to make sure that I'm honoring the process of notification. Josh, let me consult with our council on that. I mean, if you need it tonight to make this, I mean, this is mostly certified staff. That's how you get to that number is certified staff and a handful of non-certified as well.
Can you give us a total number?
A total number of personnel?
Yes.
I'm going to say 10. 10 total.
With some of those potentially being able to move forward,
That's
have
correct.
the opportunity to.
I mean, again, I'm going to say this in terms of classroom. In terms of classroom instruction, and there's potential that it could affect one, maybe two. But that's if people are interested in perhaps teaching out of an area that they're currently endorsed in, so.
Classroom also refers to K-12 classroom. Correct. Classroom means K-12 classroom.
Okay.
Pre-K-12 classroom.
I have a few thoughts to share, and if you're okay with it, I put it together ahead of time, just because, we were hit with this on Thursday, and I've had some time to think about it, and obviously a lot of thoughts have come through my head, a lot of emotions have come through, and so I was able to put some down on paper, and I just want to share them with the board, and with everybody who's here, and also watching tonight. Before I cast my vote tonight, I need to say something plainly. Because the people in this room and the people watching at home deserve to hear more than just a yes or a no. I did not come to this vote easily. I came to it the hard way. When this plan was presented on Thursday, my first reaction was not relief, it was grief. Grief for the employees who will be affected, grief for students whose classroom experience may look different next year, grief for a community about to feel the weight of decisions none of us on this board want to be making. So I went to work. I spent the days and nights between Thursday and tonight trying to find a legitimate, financially sound reason to vote no. Or at least a vote for something smaller, something that hurt less this year and left more options on the table. So I'll tell you what I found. Some of this it'll be redundant because John did a good job of explaining it all, but I kind of went over how things are funded. Most people assume that the local school board controls the budget, that we decide how much money the district has to work with. And essentially we don't, because of the state of Iowa's set for per pupil amount that we've gone over tonight. When the cost of running a school rises faster than the state increases that amount, the district falls behind. Not because of bad local decisions, but because the math stops working. For years, Iowa's legislature has set that rate far below the rate of inflation. Every year, in real terms, we have had less purchasing power than the year before. At the same time, our enrollment has been declining. Fewer students means less total funding. So we did not arrive here by accident. We did not arrive here through mismanagement. We arrived here because a decade of state funding decisions have not kept pace with the real cost of educating children. So what was I looking for? Well, my concern with this plan was, like Craig has expressed, the cuts are heavily concentrated in personnel, the people who work alongside our kids every single day. I wanted to find an alternative. I also wanted to wait. We have a new superintendent starting July 1st with experience navigating exactly these kinds of situations. I deeply want her perspective on these decisions. There's also going to be a governor's election in November, and there's a real possibility of a shift in the Iowa legislature toward leadership that has historically been more supportive of public education funding. I wanted to wait for those things. I also wanted to know which specific positions would be cut before approving a dollar amount. But unfortunately, we were told that legal counsel, because of legal counsel, we cannot know that yet. The law requires affected employees to be notified before that information becomes public, and that cannot happen until the board approves the figure. I want to be transparent about how uncomfortable that is. Voting on a number without knowing what it means for real people in our district does not sit easily with me. However, if our administrators have turned over every stone and no other option prevented personnel from being impacted by their decisions, then I want to give respect to those who may be impacted and the time to find alternative opportunities. So what did the numbers tell me? Think of our district's budget like a checking account. Right now there's money in it, but we are spending more than we bring in every year. Without action, that account goes to zero and then into the red. The projections show that without these cuts, our district reaches state intervention territory by the end of this decade. That means the state takes over. That means we lose control of our own schools entirely. The financial model shows that the cuts in this plan were calibrated specifically to stop that deterioration. A smaller cut this year pushes that number lower, and a lower number this year means losing even more financial options 2 years from now, exactly when we might need it the most. I looked for a responsible path to voting no. I unfortunately could not find one. If I vote yes tonight, it comes with expectations I'm putting on the record. First, this board must be fully briefed on which positions were affected immediately after staff notifications are complete. We are approving this number. We are responsible for understanding what it means. Second, in implementing these cuts, every effort must be made to protect classroom-facing positions. Administrative and non-instructional reductions should be exhausted before any cut touches a teacher or a paraprofessional working directly with students. Third, our incoming superintendent must be given a genuine seat at the table in how these reductions are carried out and in how we approach year 2 decisions, including the proposed closure of Salem Elementary. She was hired in part for this expertise. Her perspective must be a part of this process before anything is finalized. And finally, the board must build a formal review before year 2 cuts are enacted to assess whether the legislative and funding landscape has shifted in any way that might change our options. Now, to the families, staff in this district, and especially to the Salem community, I want you to know that I've read your letters, I've seen your posts, I've heard from your neighbors, your teachers, and your children. And I want you to know that every word has reached me. You have told us that Salem Elementary has the lowest teacher turnover rate of any building in our district, and you are right. That speaks to something real. It speaks to staff that is committed, a community that is tight-knit, and a school that clearly means the world to families it serves. I do not dispute any of that, and I never have. It's also important to acknowledge the hard work of every educator and staff member in every other building in our district, working tirelessly every day to provide equitable learning opportunities for every student in this district. But I need you to hear something that is very hard to say, and I imagine even harder to receive. The decisions about Salem Elementary's future is not a referendum on its worth. It is not a judgment about your community. It is not a conclusion that more letters, more passion, or more presence at board meetings can change, because it was never made on those terms to begin with. This decision is being driven entirely by one thing. The cost to operate that building exceeds what we receive in funding to serve its students. That gap has to come from somewhere, and right now, it comes from every other student in this district. That is not a choice we were making. That is a math problem that we inherited. I want to be honest with you about something even harder. The board is not your adversary in this. The vote to close Salem Elementary that's coming up as part of phase 2 is not because we don't value rural communities. We are not ignoring your voices. We are not indifferent to what that building means to you. We are trying desperately to ensure that there is still a Mount Pleasant Community School District standing in 5 years for your children and for every other child in this county. Emotion cannot dictate this decision. The real fight, the one that could have prevented this moment, was never in this room. It was in Des Moines. It was in the funding formula set by the state legislature. It was in the per pupil amounts that have not kept pace with the actual cost of education for over a decade. That is where the decision about Salem Elementary was ultimately made, or will be, long before it ever came to this board. I stand beside you, frustrated to no end as I watch the headlines cover everything from another war to proposals to purchase counties from Minnesota and Illinois, and propping up the ever-growing number of private schools with our public dollars. Yet our public schools suffer, and districts across the state are forced to make decisions like the ones we are faced with tonight. It's not fair, and it could have been prevented. The reason we are here having to make the impossible decisions tonight is due to direct policy choices of the majority party of our legislature for the past decade. They are choosing not to fund our schools. So I am so sorry that your community is bearing so much of the cost of this failure. You deserved better for the people elected to serve you in the State House. So did every family in this district. Nights like tonight must be remembered when it's time to go to the polls. Our representatives must learn what pain has been inflicted by their choices and failures in policy. So to close, if I vote yes tonight, I do so with grief, with resolve, and with the full expectation that this board remains an active steward of how this plan is carried out, not a board that approved a number and walked away. Our students deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
On phase 2 of Salem School, that's just a proposal, is it not?
Correct.
So it's not a done deal. I think people are getting the wrong message that it's a done deal, and it's not. We got a lot of time to talk about that, a lot of stuff to discuss before that decision's ever made. And back to what Craig was saying, on this other stuff on phase 1, have we gone to these other departments and asked how they're gonna cut cost and say of the transportation, utilities? Have they come forward with any cost savings to help with this situation? I mean, if you figure our general fund salaries 85% of 25 million, that leaves 3.7 million left. And if you go 10%, that's 375,000 that could come from other areas, and that'd lessen the sting of that personnel, of that 713,000. Is there other ways to get? You know, I understand health insurance had to be passed on to the employees a little bit. I don't know what percentage they pay or how that goes, but at work it goes up every year. We pay more. It's just part of life. Utilities, transportation. What can every department do to help lessen this blow?
There are some utilities already figured in there, and you asked the question in a committee meeting about solar, and we haven't looked at that. It's been brought up. It's not been investigated. It's an opportunity, not something that probably we're going to feel come July 1. But that's continues to need to be looked at as we move forward with the rest of the potential cuts ongoing. Can you speak to any transportation?
It's representative of eliminating a bus route. Those numbers are representative of eliminating a bus route. Aaron said
Which number?
personnel.
Okay.
This is the graph. Right here.
Are there other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve Phase 1 General Fund budget reductions for the 26-27 school year?
I so move to approve.
Now, is this a motion just?
Phase 1.
Phase
It's
one.
Phase 1 only for the 26-27 school year. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? Jessica, roll call.
Flint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
No.
Hampton,
Yes.
Mopper,
Yes.
Hurd.
No.
Next item on our new business is to set a public hearing to discuss the closure of Salem Elementary at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This public hearing could be held March 23rd at our work session. As we discussed in committee, this has been proposed as a phase 2. Those steps that would lead up to a possible closure, these are one of the steps that would need to take place at the beginning. It doesn't impact yes or no, but if we don't have a public hearing to hear public comment on the possible closure of Salem, then it wouldn't be on the table, and we would continue to have to look at all other options. This wouldn't, if we don't have this public hearing, this wouldn't be an option we could even consider. So this action would be to set a public hearing date.
To continue moving forward with the process, I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Just for clarification, at the public hearing, There is no vote on it, correct?
Correct, it's just a public hearing
Okay.
to be able to.
Second here.
And again, any kind of urgency that might be picked up from this is due to the clock running out of our unspent budget authority. There are implications on the ability to levy future cash reserves by keeping the UAB and our solvency ratio within a certain window. And if we wait and are conservative, which was what I wanted from the get-go, I wanted to pump the brakes, but the more you look into it, you realize that if it falls in a certain window, if you're too conservative, you get locked out for 2 years of your ability to levy cash reserve. And so there are restraints and handcuffs put on the possibilities of budgets if we get this wrong. And if we sit here and wait too long and watch our expenditures rise too far above our revenues.
The motion on the table is to set a public hearing date for the closure of Salem Elementary at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. That would be what the public hearing would be discussing. Discussion of public hearing for on March 23rd at 6:10 as part of our work session. Any other questions on that? Jessica, roll call.
Flint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
The next item is to consideration to approve the first reading of School Board Policy 600 series, the educational program.
Yeah, we recommend that you approve.
Are there any other outstanding questions from the committee?
Just to review, we went over this at length in our policy meeting, which we do every month when we discuss, updating our policies. There were several questions raised about clarifications within each policy, well, not each, but a handful of policies. They were addressed at that time, corrections were made, and again, this is the first reading, so we'll have time if other catches are made or updates need to be made in the future.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Jessica, roll call.
Flint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
Next, we have consideration to approve an overnight trip request for the state science fair in Ames on the 26th and 27th of March.
Recommend you approve.
So moved.
Second.
Jessica, roll call.
Flint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
And we have a consideration to approve the overnight trip request for state FFA convention, which is also in Ames on April 19th through the 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Jessica, roll call.
Flint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is a negotiations discussion, which is exempt from the open meeting law. So we'll be asking you all to leave at this point. When we're done with that discussion, we will open it back up to entertain our last motion on our agenda.
Okay, looks like we're streaming.
Jada will come back in, so.
All right.
So, just for the stream, the tentative agreement with AFSCME, this has all been tentatively agreed on. Step movement for all current employees, paraeducators, custodians, and maintenance. 50 cents per hour increase to the paraeducator salary schedule. 50 cents per hour increase to the custodian salary schedule. And 50 cents per hour increase to the maintenance salary schedule. It also includes creating a new stipend for paraeducators who hold a college degree of associates and beyond. And there's a memorandum of understanding for an additional paid leave day for custodians and maintenance the day following the 4th of July. All of that equates to $94,276 in new money, and you can see the total package increase there.
Any questions? Otherwise, I would have a consideration to approve the fiscal year 27 contractual agreement with AFSCME Local 3865.
So moved.
Second.
Lent,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Overberg,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
With that, I adjourn our meeting at 8:45 p.m.